Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Monday night segment of Horsefly Chronicles Radio with myself, Julia Syracusa, and Philip Syracusa. We are broadcasting live from the United Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 FM and 105.3 FM from New Orleans. This evening's show is sponsored by Carnation, so we want to thank them for their sponsorship. You will have to do a few things in order to participate. Go over to the YouTube channel, UFO Paranormal Radio, and get into chat. Subscribe if you haven't. You can go into all of the United Public Radio Facebook stations, Twitch, SoundCloud, and Podbeam. I can only respond to your comments on our YouTube channel on UFO Paranormal Radio. And if you have any questions for our guests, please ask. So tonight, I want to introduce Mr. Bobby J. Gallo. Bobby, can you hear us well?
Yes, we can hear you very well. Can you hear us?
Yes, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so Bobby J. Gallo has been interested in all things weird since a very young age. A modern-day Renaissance man, Bobby is a world-class professional magician who has toured the country performing for colleges, resorts, trade shows, and television audiences. He's also an avid ghost hunter, published author, speaker, networker, leader, corporate trainer, web series producer, and is the co-creator and headmaster of the International Conservatory of Magic, the world's largest online school for magicians. Joined by Bobby tonight is his wife Renee and daughter Courtney, who are the Gallo family ghost hunters. You can find more about them and purchase their books on bookbaby.com, Family Spirits, and dailymotion.com. So let's welcome them all to the show.
Welcome.
Yay!
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Well, you got the whole family over there. Hey,
Almost.
really quick.
We're missing one.
Almost. Hey, just really quick, off the cuff here. You still live out in Pennsylvania, correct?
We do. We are currently doing the show from Castello Gallo in Roseto, Pennsylvania. Right here in our haunted brick castle. So
I don't think we're far away from each other, but we'll talk another time. We're not far away.
Yeah, probably like a half hour.
Yeah.
So, guys, tell us how you all get started in the paranormal and everything that you guys do.
So let's Bobby, you start, then the wife, then the daughter. Tell us how you got into it, because I find it interesting. The whole, the family's involved, which is awesome.
Yes.
We really don't see that too much.
Thank you. Yes. Well, it's interesting to note that back in the late 80s and early 90s, I was actually doing paranormal investigation with a team called the Psy Guys. And this was really before, the term paranormal investigator was ever even coined. The only references we had were like maybe old Hans Holzer books and, things of that nature. But I had gotten out of it. I became a professional magician for a number of years. And basically, it was about 8 years ago now. We were sitting in an apartment down south. We were living down in South Carolina at the time. And there was this brand new show on television you might have heard of called Ghost Adventures. And I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And we started watching it, and the kids immediately loved it. And one day we were watching it, and I turned to my kids and I said, Courtney's on that side. I turned to my kids and I said, hey kids, Daddy used to do that too. And it was like all of a sudden the world stopped because they were addicted to this show. And all of a sudden they found out of the clear blue sky, something they never knew before, that their father was an actual paranormal investigator. So immediately they wanted to do it. No fear, no hesitation. And I said, well, I'm a bit rusty, and, I brushed up on the new technology and whatnot. And we started going out on, some minor investigations, because we just wanted to get one piece of evidence. We were thinking, wow, if we could get anything that these guys were getting on TV, one EVP, one picture, anything, how cool would that be? Well, it turned out that we got tons of stuff, and I don't really know why. But and that's pretty much how it started. And I would film everything. So we released one investigation on YouTube, and it went completely viral, tens of thousands of views. And that's when I realized people really were interested in this type of material, not only the paranormal investigation, but the family who ghost hunts.
That's interesting. I like that. I like that whole thing, especially the magician part tied into the paranormal.
It's amazing.
And I got to be honest with you. I used to work with some magicians. Not that I was a magician, but like the work I used to do. Some magicians, because they didn't really believe in paranormal. They believed that there was a scientific explanation behind an illusion.
There's a reason
behind things that we would see. So, right. And you have a different perspective of that.
Totally.
In a way where you do believe in paranormal.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. I feel that, this all goes back to Houdini and Neville Mascalini, who around Victorian times used to try to debunk the spiritualists because they felt people were being taken advantage of. So ever since then, magicians felt it incumbent upon them to debunk anything paranormal. Why? I don't know, because it's so closely tied. So being a believer in the paranormal myself and all the experiences I had, what I wanted to do as a magician, I do want to debunk things that can't be explained. Let's put that out there right now. So, but that also gives me a unique perspective that if I stumble upon something that cannot be debunked, now we have something. And I feel like I have some qualifications to look at a piece of evidence and say, that may be paranormal as a magician.
Interesting. Now, when I met you a few weeks ago, you had this apparition that was mind-blowing at the event.
Yeah.
And I'd like you to explain that apparition, because that was pretty detailed.
Absolutely. And I really think this goes back to the whole dynamic, of our family, our ghost hunting family.
Yep.
We get evidence, and this isn't the first time somebody has been really surprised at some of our findings. And a lot of people ask us, how do you get all of these pieces of evidence, and how do you get entities to do the things you want them to do? And I just think that we come from a very unique perspective, a unique approach. We're very respectful. That particular investigation was in a 200-year-old privately owned cemetery. It was on private land in Fort Mill, South Carolina, and it had a reputation for being haunted, but nobody could investigate it because it was on private land. So I approached the owners of the land, and I told them who I was and what I wanted to do, and I told them that I was going to actually put this out there, if we got any evidence. And the owner said, absolutely no problem. You have my permission to do an investigation, because they had gotten approached many times, and for some odd reason they said no, but they said yes to us. It turned out that this was the burial ground of a Revolutionary War hero named Thomas Sprott. And if you go to our web series page at ghosthunter.ws, it's called The Hidden Grave of Thomas Sprott. You could actually see this entire episode with the apparition. But, I digress. So we did that investigation, and I went there alone in the beginning, and the EMF, it was in the middle of the woods. It was a small little burial ground with a concrete wall behind it. And the second I hit that gate, my EMF detector literally jumped out of my hands. There's no power lines, nothing. It was in the middle of the woods in the south. And I had a feeling that came over me where I literally could not enter the gate. Something was keeping me out. So I said, well, I need to come back here with the rest of the team. So I got the family. We went back. Renee at the time was using dowsing rods. And we asked the entity with the dowsing rods if we could enter, and it said yes. So it gave us permission. All of a sudden, the EMF stopped. You can see this on the video. I was able to enter. And once we entered, we had probably the investigation of a lifetime. And basically what had happened was midway through the investigation, we asked the entity who was communicating with us through a bunch of different modalities if it would pose for a picture. And through the rods, it said yes. So Nicolette, who was not here at the time, was taking infrared snapshots. And all of a sudden, she started seeing things through her viewfinder that looked very suspicious. And it basically was like an ectoplasm cloud. It started as an orb, and then it blew up into an ectoplasm cloud. You could actually see it sucking the energy out of Renee's recorder. And it basically, the grand finale was a full body apparition standing right next to me in a succession of shots. Mm-hmm. And that's how we got it. It literally, and I'm not kidding anybody who's listening to this right now, we asked a ghost to pose for a picture, and it did. And we have this photographic evidence, and you could see the entire thing happen in real time on video. And that's something that's pretty rare, that you could actually see this happen. And you can see this at ghosthunter.ws. The episode is called The Hidden Grave of Thomas Sprott. You guys still there? Okay, see their video feed stopped, so I am going to keep talking. Okay, no, because we got to keep it going. Okay, so yeah, and basically that's what happened, and we've gotten a lot of evidence that way throughout the years.
Maybe the family demographics, like how we all work together. And
yeah, go ahead. You know, Renee wants to say a few words on how we work as a family. Go ahead, Renee.
When we started out, none of us knew, well, other than Bob, none of us really knew much about paranormal. So it was all new to us. But we all went out. I think on the first investigation, nobody was worried. Like, we had gotten a little bit of evidence and nobody was really concerned. I think by the second or third, we all pretty much had our, I don't know how to explain it. Like, no. we all kind of,
yeah. We all had our specialties, our talents, exactly. and things that we were all uniquely good at. Yes. Like, for instance, I talk, and maybe I have a little bit of a background. Renee
does not talk.
Yeah, but Renee, I say this in the book Family Spirits, which, by the way, here is a copy of Family Spirits, that Renee was a natural born dowser. Nobody could do it like her. She communicated with spirits unlike anything anybody had ever seen before. We've had experts look at the videos, and everybody was pretty much blown away. Now, Courtney, this one right over here, Courtney was gifted. Courtney's Miss Personality. Okay. Yes. But one thing Courtney was able to do, which blew me away all the time, is she was able to actually see orbs with her own eyes. And she would say, Dad, like we were doing an investigation in an old haunted theater called the Palace Theater. And what had happened was, midway through the investigation, she says, Dad, I see orbs on the stairs. I didn't see any orbs on the stairs, but we had video going the entire time. So when we went back and we did video review, there they were dancing on the stairs. And she did that a number of times.
Yeah. What about the time she just asked the orbs to come and they were all around her?
Yeah. One time we wanted to test something. If anybody ever read The Orb Experiment by Klaus Heinemann, which I highly recommend, which kind of pretty much, it's the book that blows the dust theory, all to smithereens, basically. There is something in there called the Orb Experiment where you could summon an orb. So Courtney wanted to be the one to try to summon the orb. So we were out on our patio in Fort Mill, South Carolina. She asked an orb to appear. I took the picture and boom, there it was. I mean, if that's dust, what are the odds? 1 in a billion, 1 in a trillion? We should just address the elephant in the room and say that was a paranormal experience. And she was able to do that a number of times. Courtney, was there anything else you want to say, about your experiences out in the field?
A lot of times ghosts were attracted to me because of St. Michael.
Well, okay, now there's a whole nother story right there. She talks about St. Michael. We did an investigation in Salem, Massachusetts, where an actual Salem witch, this is a pagan witch, folks. This is not a Christian here. It's a pagan witch, looked at her, shocked, and said, "You are under the personal protection of St. Michael." Which I thought, I wrote about that in Family Spirits because it was such a strange situation that I'm still trying to grasp. And maybe if we get back up there, I need to ask that witch a little bit more what that was about. But apparently she's well protected over here. But yes, there were definitely times when spirits were attracted to Courtney. We were doing an investigation in Laurelwood Cemetery in Rock Hill, South Carolina, when an EVP clearly said, "Come here, Courtney." And at the time, I was so freaked out about it. On the episode, I on the subtitle, I said, come here," but it really didn't say that. And in the book Family Spirits, I actually say that's the only time I ever fudged evidence, because it really said, "Come here, Courtney." And if you listen to it, if you go to the episode called Laurelwood, you could hear it, and it's freaky. It will freak you out. Seriously. You'll hear it clearly. It says, "Come here, Courtney."
And what about the one time that we all felt the negative? Then it was only the one time that we really felt the negative. And
Nikki was the one, I think, who felt that the
she
most.
She started feeling it the most.
Oh yeah. Well, a lot of people ask us if we've ever had any negative experiences. And yeah, we've definitely had our share of negative experiences, but it's not what people think. A lot of people think, oh yeah, ghost threw me down the stairs or threw a toaster at me or something like that. That's not really how it works out in the field. You get negative experiences in the form of heavy depressed feelings and energy drain, and sometimes through the answers you're getting on your equipment. Mm-hmm. So we were actually in, it was called The Gatekeeper, was the episode, and anybody watching it, you could almost feel the heaviness in the episode, but it wasn't half what we were feeling while we were there. It was the one time that entities were actually trying to get us to leave. And they were doing it by, first they just started draining all our equipment. All our equipment died. We ended up doing the video on a cell phone because our cameras died, our equipment died. And then when that wasn't working, they went to work on us in the form of a very heavy, depressed feeling. And you need, and Nikki, her talent was that she's an empath. She can not only sense the feelings of people, but sense them in the spirits too. So we really all had our talents and our individual talents when we were out in the field. So once again, I'm going to see if the hosts are here. Nope, not seeing the hosts. Okay. I think there were some connection problems before the show, but it looks like we're still live here. Yeah. So we're gonna keep going. We're gonna move on. We're gonna keep the show rolling. So basically, that's what happened. And a lot of people say, well, probably one of the most controversial things that we accept as a paranormal team that other people don't is the whole subject of orbs. And, I do believe that dust particulates and airborne anomalies can create orbs, in photos. But since we mentioned it, I also have to say unequivocally that paranormal orbs exist. And we have the proof on video. In fact, one of my close friends who's a paranormal investigator, was an orb skeptic, actually saw one when we were investigating the same Palace Theater where Courtney saw the orbs dancing on the stairs. And he looked at me and says, "Bob, I can't believe this, but I just saw an orb." And I said, "Where?" And he said, "Right over there." And it was by the men's room. So I quickly swung around my camera and boom, I took a picture of it. And what we got on the picture is probably the best example of a paranormal orb to date. It was giving off its own light. It was seen with the naked eye. And, basically it was actually seen in an area where we were getting some really incredible paranormal activity just a little bit earlier. But, yeah. So, but I talk about orbs a lot in the book, Family Spirits, right there. There it is. So yeah, I'm going to keep holding it up, by the way, because, it's basically it's a book, we wrote it. It's almost 300 pages. It's got a lot of meat to it. It really, really does. And it basically hit number 3 on Amazon in the adventure travel category when it was released. And then, of course, COVID hit and everything, pretty much we lost all our momentum. But, now, but it's a great book because it's also a companion to the web series. The first half of the book is everything I know about the paranormal and a how-to for ghost hunting. And the second half is all of our adventures, a walkthrough of the web series. So it's like you're investigating right along with us. Okay. And yes, there they are. We've been keeping it going.
So we've been listening to you.
Oh, good.
That's fascinating. We got thrown off a little bit off the connection. I guess the ghost that you're capturing or whatever is, but that's fascinating stuff there. I'm impressed. Can you hold that book up again?
Absolutely. There it is. Family Spirits right there. Oh,
Just a little bit closer to the camera.
Okay. I'm going to, right there we go. Family Spirits right there.
Good.
And where can people find this book?
They could find it right now. They could find it just about anywhere. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. But where I would really like them to get it, because they can get a really good discount, is on our publisher's website, which is FamilySpiritsBook.com. That's FamilySpiritsBook.com. And if your listeners enter the promo code 2021, which is the year, they will get 21% off the cover price for both the physical book and the ebook, or both.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, that's definitely a book the people should definitely want to get, right?
We were also watching a lot of your videos, and I mean, your work is absolutely amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. We're really impressed with that work.
It's so good. All of you do such a great job. Do you do everything by yourself? All the editing, all the producing?
Yeah,
or just all of it together?
No, we do a lot of things together, like evidence review we do together for sure, because I'll miss things all day long, and Renee, all of a sudden she'll catch it. She says right there. And I'm like, I would have missed it if you weren't here. But as far as the video production, I do it, and you can see it, the earlier episodes were a little chunky, and they basically get better as time goes on. The production value gets much better that, closer to the present date. But then again, when we started doing this, and this is the truth, you could count the people doing paranormal web series on one hand, literally, because we know who they were. And when we came out with it, it was so novel that there were people in the paranormal community saying, "Oh, this is great. We have another ghost show to watch." But now, they're everywhere. If you look on YouTube or whatnot, you could find them all over the place. But the things, the productions got better as time goes on. Here's the thing, though, that I want to stress to anybody watching the web series. Two things, actually. Number one is some episodes I just don't think are that great, because I wanted to put the whole scope of paranormal investigation out there and show people how it really is. You're not going to get fantastic evidence on every single investigation. That being said, some episodes are going to knock people out. And the other thing is, I can't remember what the other thing was. But anyway, yeah. Basically, the other thing was, now I got it. I remember now. We fake nothing. No. And that is one of the cardinal rules of our web series, is that anything you see is 100% real. Yeah. So.
I like that.
Sometimes we would, we leave investigations thinking, well, we didn't get anything. Well, and then we come home and do the review.
Oh, my gosh.
We were shocked because we thought, well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a great example of that is we have an episode called "We Were Not Alone." And this is like my second. Number one is the Sprott investigation. If people can watch one episode, I say, watch The Hidden Grave of Thomas Sprott. If you want to see the second one, it's "We Were Not Alone." And this is one of the best pieces of evidence we've ever caught. And it was by complete accident. Renee and I were exiting an investigation. We thought we got absolutely nothing. But what I didn't realize is I left my digital recorder on. In fact, I have it right here. This is the exact one that I used. And this was in my pocket, and I left it on. And when I got back to the apartment, I looked at it and I said, "Oh man, I left the recorder on. I can't believe it." So I downloaded the file, and here I am listening to about an hour of nothing. Finally, I get to the point where Renee and I are leaving the cemetery, and we're tripping over footstones and fallen headstones because it was really dark. And we're laughing. She's laughing. She goes, I don't want to step on anybody because she doesn't like walking over graves. And all of a sudden, a third voice comes in out of nowhere, 2 complete sentences, as clear as you and I are talking. Come back. Don't leave now.
Crazy.
And blew
Wow.
us away. In fact,
Wow.
we were both at Phenom 2021 a few weeks ago. Somebody came up to our booth and we were talking about EVPs. Renee's laughing right now because she knows what happened. And I said, I feel, this is just me, my personal opinion, that we caught one of the best EVPs ever caught. And she was like shrugging her shoulders. I said, would you like to hear it? She said, yeah. And Renee is my witness. I started playing it. She goes, stop, stop. She goes, I can't hear anymore. She goes, OMG, I've never heard anything like that before. Because just the inflection of the spirit, and you could hear it enunciating the words. You could hear the inflection of the words. It was straining so hard to be intelligible, to tell us not to leave. And that's another thing. It was relevant. We were leaving, and it's telling us not to leave. So, I mean, if you put it all together, it was just blew my mind.
You know, I want to talk to you about Gettysburg. I know one of the trailers, and you were there, and you did an episode. Do you feel like it's residual energy or active energy being in the present of us?
What do you think?
Wow. You know, okay. I have an answer to this, and I think both exist. I truly believe both exist, because some things only make sense as residual energy. But in Gettysburg, I think they're there, and I think they're still fighting the war. I think they're still trapped, because I was asking questions even on our last investigation, and I was getting real answers. Like I got names that I was able to trace back to actual soldiers. And one fallen soldier through a SB7 spirit box says, I've been here so long now. Now that's not residual. That's something intelligent saying, I wish I could move on, but I don't know how.
And the doctor.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
Thank you, Courtney.
recently.
Antietam. We were in Antietam, which we just got some, this is really cool. We were in Antietam, and we were on Bloody Lane Trail, which was one of the hot spots at Antietam where people were just being, mowed down. They would go into this trench and they would just get, killed. And we got an EVP in there named Paul Lee. It was very clear, Paul Lee. So after the investigation, I didn't know why we got this name Paul Lee, but I did all kinds of research and I couldn't find anything. And then all of a sudden, somebody found our video on the internet on Antietam and posted it to a Civil War site called Civil War Talk. It's up there right now. And one of the historians watched it on this site called Civil War Talk, and the episode is called Footsteps of Antietam. Does research on the name Paul Lee, and you're not going to believe this. He was a surgeon in Antietam. And
wow.
Yeah. And my opinion, it was one of the soldiers asking me to find the doctor because there were so many wounded in that trench. So is that residual? Unlikely.
Okay, so can you hear us?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so here's the part where I'm getting confused. I'm a person who studies near-death experiences, okay?
Cool.
And the people that were clinically proven dead and they were brought back 10 minutes later, 20 minutes later.
Yep.
And each and every person, whether it's a doctor, no matter who it was, says, look, when we crossed over, we can see everybody at once. Mm-hmm. Everybody, no matter what state you lived in.
Mm-hmm.
And we work to the other side. That's a higher realm, a higher energy.
Yes.
Okay, now as a paranormal investigator myself, and living in a haunted house myself, and you're a paranormal investigator, I'm finding it hard to believe because of the sake that we're investigators for our satisfaction and testimony and validation that we're saying it's possible that in Gettysburg and other locations, because I'm there and other investigators are there, they're there too, meaning the other side has never left.
Right.
That platform of they're still fighting the war.
Yeah.
They're still going through the murder.
Correct.
Or is it Bobby Gallo and your family? Is this the answer? Is it that the soul, from what I've been told, lives on multiple dimensions simultaneously and can exist through different realms, through physical and spiritual? Therefore, the soul is everywhere at all times when it crosses. So when the spirit is saying, I'm still fighting this war on an EVP, can it be part of them that's fighting it, but the other part of the soul, through near-death experiences, is saying, no, I moved on?
That could very well be the case. I mean, honestly, this is why we're still looking for answers, because these are all incredible questions. And you may have had the same experience that we have had, that we could ask. We've had some incredibly long streams of communications with entities in the field, but as soon as we ask one of those really deep philosophical questions, is there a heaven? Are you in hell? Is this hell? Hell is described in the Bible as a separation from God. So you being stuck here, is that hell? Anything like that, boom, communication ceases immediately, almost every single time. Yep. And it's uncanny. We could ask him all kinds of things and they'll answer. Yep. But as soon as you ask that, they're gone. Sure. Now, that it's one of those questions we don't have an answer to. But I think what you're driving at is something that I actually talk about in Family Spirits a little bit. I think there's has something to do with it. There's something in science, actually, or metaphysics to be exact, called the morphic field, or some people call it universal intelligence. That after we shuffle off this mortal coil, we can tap into this energy field, this field of knowledge that permeates all things. And it's why a 200-year-old spirit could figure out how to ping the needle on an EMF detector, because they just know. It's the same knowledge field that a spider that is only hours old can build this beautiful web in a spot perfectly situated for capturing prey. Nobody ever taught it. And if scientists will say, well, that's in their DNA. Well, we could see their DNA under a microscope. Where are the spiderweb blueprints? There's this knowledge field out there that everything taps into. So you could be right, absolutely, that the spirit moves on, but that those experiences, that knowledge could still be in the morphic field playing out in places like Gettysburg and Antietam. This is all theory on my part. It's all conjecture, but it seems pretty plausible when you think about it.
Yeah, I agree, because it would be hard to comprehend that someone of innocence who's died, no matter what it is, still has to remain there on our watch.
Right.
When and now I've had communication with the other side too. I was a hardcore skeptic and not believe in anything that would exist, but it was proven, not by someone's words, because I don't really buy into the words. I buy into the proof of, if I'm getting something on a digital recorder with no, I'm not talking about a spirit box that goes and I'm trying to make out the words. I'm talking a digital recorder where no one's in the room, and you ask a question, and within 30 seconds you're getting an intelligent response. So that's proven to me that we do go on, right?
Right.
But then there's always the class cases where these spirits say we're not alone, and especially the more darker cases where the good spirit would not hang around so long because something else is invading their space.
Right.
So it's like the way it was explained to me from them is that, yes, we're here in the physical. The spiritual for example, there's punks, there's
Yeah.
evil forces that also try to get their way and push us out of here. Just on a different level, like a different frequency, different guitar string. When you hit that chord, they're pushing us out of our level.
Mhm.
So I really do believe that, many people's theories and thoughts, it makes sense is that we're on multiple dimensions, because when I asked you the question about residual and active, it's so close, because residual is it reoccurred, but active is I'm getting a response right
Exactly.
now. And the
Exactly.
question I'm asking you,
Right.
how is that possible?
Right.
And then going to the near-death experiences where they say, wait a second, hold on. We could see everything and everybody in every state and feel the emotions and hear the words. Well, then we exist within different platforms. And it goes to, I believe, the theory of everything, right? We're all
Absolutely.
connected.
Absolutely. And you know what, Philip? You know what I really like about what you're saying here is you are on the exact same plane as me, because so many people that I've talked to in the NDE field, they don't connect ghost hunting with NDEs. But I do, and you do, because I actually talk about it in Family Spirits, believe it or not, ADCs, near-death experiences, because I believe consciousness, spirit, soul, it's all different words for the same thing.
Yes.
And consciousness, goes on after death, and in different forms. We are pioneers, and I'm telling you right now, 2 centuries from now, people are going to be looking back on us saying we were the ones that really were pioneering a whole new branch of science. That we knew these things, because these things are going to be proven. Yeah. In the decades or centuries to come, and they're going to look back at episodes like the Horsefly Chronicles tonight on July the 5th, 2021. Yeah, 21. Thank you. Yeah. What year is this, by the way? It's back in Gettysburg. But they're going to be looking back at things like this and saying, these people knew it back then, because I'm telling you, there's something out there. And science is just starting to catch on.
I definitely agree with you. And I really like and respect that you're in the magician end of it, because you could really prove both sides of, look, I could debunk this because I know how this illusion works, and how this, whatever you want to call it. But I guess I also know the other side, that no, there's realism, and these are facts, which I like that. I like what you do, and I really that I have a lot of faith in that whole concept. So we're talking about residual, we're talking about active energy, and then we also talk about the possibility, which my family has lived through, malevolent spirits, not being earthbound, but being something completely different. And I had a hard time believing in that too. But then again, what the spirit world was telling us, and again, I had to get this through the teams that were here and the audio recordings, that those different realms, they all exist, whether you believe in demons or you don't, possession or you don't.
Of course.
It really does exist, and that they can take the space over in the body, especially when there's out-of-body experiences going on, astral projection. Sometimes they're vulnerable and open up to the possibilities of the unknown coming in and taking our space of who we really are. And I've seen that. I was on Darkness Radio with Dave Schrader, and I'll never forget this. One of the psychics that were on the show with us, she had to talk to me at the end of the show, and for the first time in my life, I seen someone turn from such an innocent young person to cold and black eyes and the most evil laugh that gave me the chills and scared me and threatened me and the people around me. It showed me that if you're open and vulnerable, or even if you have a little bit of belief, these things can take you over, and they can buy trust by telling truth. one of the things about demons that we've learned is
They're tricky.
they're tricky and they tell you the truth. The truth, right? The prince of all lies. They will get to buy you, to get your trust. They will tell you before they take you down. And we learned that. I think we learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
And not everything is demonic, but there's also spirits that cross over and they play bad as well.
Right.
They were bad hair, and sometimes they cross over. They play bad as well.
Right.
Well,
in your investigations.
Yes, go ahead.
Have you ever had an attachment come home with you, your wife, or your daughter?
Well, yeah. I mean, we've had some things that we don't really talk about too much, but we do tell people that when you are on an investigation, you need to take precautions. I talk about that in Family Spirits a lot. I have some cardinal rules on investigations. Number one is don't take anything home with you from an investigation, ever. I don't care what it is. I don't care if you're in a cemetery and that's a cool looking rock. Don't take it home. I'm not talking about dirt on the shoes. I'm talking about like physically taking something home. And don't ghost hunt in your house, because you don't know what you're going to invite into your home. And if you invite something into your home, sometimes it's hard to get it to leave. And I know that there's a lot of ways that people have personal, protection, depending on your spiritual background, your religion, whatnot. We're all Roman Catholics, so we carry medals of St. Benedict because for centuries that has been known as the devil chasing medal. It actually has an exorcism engraved on it, and it's been very effective for thousands of years. So why change? But some people do the sage thing, or people have all kinds of different things. But you have to make sure that you're protected. You take precautions. Don't antagonize, and don't give yourself a reason to have an attachment. Like when you do things like the rods or pendulums or Ouija boards, those are conduit methods of communication. That means the spirit is working through you to make those things move. That's pretty risky. So you have to be really careful. And people go, well, it's the same thing as having them ping the needle on an EMF detector. And I'm like, actually, it's not, because a spirit is not working through you. It's working through an EMF detector. So there are, you have to know a little bit of how this stuff works. And if people don't want to communicate with spirits, but still want to ghost hunt, I tell them, go on a ghost walking tour. It's a very low impact way to go ghost hunting without, interacting with a ghost.
That's true.
This isn't for everybody, to be honest.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with you.
That's a very good answer to tell people too, to go on a ghost tour. You're right. Instead of going, in a location where they're not fully protected, go somewhere safer.
Yeah, I usually recommend, I say, look, tread lightly, whether you believe or you don't believe. Don't try to mock these things, because I've seen cases where, they will come after you, period.
Mm-hmm. Well, if a lot of, let's just say they weren't demonic. Let's just say they're earthbound spirits of people. People are people, they can be, vindictive. They can be angry, vengeful. I mean, call it what you want. They're people, and you have to say, okay, I am talking to a person. So, I have to treat them the way I would want to be treated. As it is, sometimes I feel bad on investigations because, the ones that are earthbound and are, stressed out, I really can't do anything to help them. I'm here to document their existence. That's all I want to do. But sometimes, I'll refer, the case to maybe somebody who can do something. But sometimes I feel bad because I can't do anything. And the last thing I want to do is antagonize them and make their existence any worse than it already is.
Give them false hope, like that we could actually help.
Renee had a great investigation in the South where we contacted an entity named Emma, and all she wanted was flowers on her grave. Yeah. And we gave her flowers. We put flowers on her grave. Yeah. Yeah, and it's called, the episode is called Flowers for Emma. So you can see it.
That's really nice.
Yeah, so
that's amazing. And so to Bobby or your wife or your daughter, this question, whoever wants to answer it, your thoughts on reincarnation, since
What do you?
you do contact those on the other side.
It's funny you bring that up because me and my sister, we debate this all the time. I think it really I don't say it doesn't exist because there is proof. I mean, there's documentaries all over the internet of little kids that are 3 or 4 years old who are going and saying, oh, I remember this from my past life, and they can just name their old family and all of this. So I don't say it doesn't exist. But I am curious to see who my sister always says that she thinks it's for the souls who haven't finished their journey. And I do believe that's true because I feel like everyone has a purpose, and that's just while we're living, we are always looking for our purpose. So I think that when you are reincarnated, you haven't fully finished your purpose yet, but then when you move on into the afterlife, you finished that purpose, whatever it was.
She knows more than
I agree with you. I like the way you said that.
Yes.
I like the way you presented that, the souls that haven't finished their journey. I strongly believe that as well. There are documented cases where, again, one kid said he was in the Civil War, and he drew pictures that was impossible, and he was 10 years old. I think he was on Oprah Winfrey.
Wow.
Years ago. So there are impossible things, but yet I think I really believe that the soul, if it crosses over too early, it may have to come back.
Yes. That makes sense.
But what someone did say, we watched a movie based on a true story, and this kid was dying of cancer, and a couple times they brought him back and they revived him, and one of the times they revived him was the last time. He says, "Look, crossing over and my life in the physical world, he was in my 20s. He's like, you know what it's like? Stopping at a stop sign in a car and then going, that's how quick the physical world is." He goes, you have no clue how beautiful and intense the other side really is. So enjoy that stop now and appreciate it for everything it is. Because when you cross over, yes, it's a new journey and an enlightenment, but we're here for a reason, and that's how quick it really, really is. This journey here, we measure time, but he was saying there is no time. Time does not exist on that side, which leads me to another question. Whoever wants to answer this question, with all the hype going on right now, and we're in paranormal about UFOs and aliens. What's your thoughts?
I think it's reemerging, yeah.
What do you think?
No, I totally believe in it, and I see the reemerging of it on TV.
Yeah,
So.
I believe there are extraterrestrials, but I also believe that they're obviously conscious, just like we're conscious. And to me, consciousness is spirit. So I believe, by extension, that there are extraterrestrial ghosts. It just makes sense to me. I think anything that thinks, anything that has eyes, even these tiny little insects have a consciousness. There's some type of spirit there. I truly believe that. I really do. Whether it goes on to another insect once they get, meet a can of Raid, I don't know, but I do believe that everything has a consciousness. I really do. I was just talking to my wife about this. There was an article that just came out that they just revived 24,000-year-old little insects, mites, that they defrosted in the permafrost over in Antarctica. And all they did is they very slowly thawed them, and they started moving and eating and doing their daily routine after 24,000 years. So I said to my wife, I said, yeah, they're microscopic and they're small. I said, but they have eyes. You can see them. They have little legs. There's some kind of consciousness there. Where was that consciousness for the past 24,000 years?
Yeah.
Where was it?
Yes.
It had to be somewhere.
Yep. I agree.
That's true.
It's true.
So here's one of these questions you might have heard before, and I'm going to ask you whoever wants to answer it. It's a factual question of, So when we go ghost hunting, we capture pictures of apparitions, little children, adults. Some people get other disfigured looking things. So what about the dinosaurs? How come they don't come out in pictures?
Oh.
Maybe they do and we don't recognize them. And I've had this conversation with a lot of people. You know, a lot of times we get garbled EVP. Who's to say that wasn't a Neanderthal spirit? We don't know. I mean, it could be, right? We know that they are still experiencing hauntings in a lot of the tombs in ancient Egypt. So we know that ghosts are a heck of a lot older than Victorian ghosts, you know, in the white flowing wedding gowns and things that you see in ghost stories. We know that they're very, very old. So if they're as old as the Egyptians, they have to be even older than that. I don't think there are any limits. But what I do think happens with us and maybe with you and other paranormal investigators is we are looking for a certain type of entity to contact with. And maybe that's why we only contact people that are most like us. Maybe if in another part of the world somebody tries to contact an Indonesian spirit or an Oriental spirit, they do, because that's what they're looking for and that's what they're attracting.
That's true. You know, you gave that. I like what you said there, because the intention of what we want to capture comes out sometimes on the film. But if we shift the intention towards other entities, there is a possibility to capture an apparition of some of those things.
Well, let me give you a really good example of that. We were in Kings Mountain Battlefield, and the most famous phenomena there, if you will, is the sound of a phantom horseman galloping through the park. Well, we got it not only on our first investigation on audio, we got it on the second investigation on audio. So, I mean, we were looking for it and we got it. And that wasn't a person, that was a horse. And it was very funny. We also got a creepy EVP of a what sounded like a trunk lid opening and closing. And now there's an inanimate object. So, I mean, that your guess is as good as mine on that one. But we got it.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, we're at the tail end of the show. I mean, you know, I like the work you do. I like the videos. Can each and every one of you, Bobby, you going first, and your wife and your daughter, just tell people what what your inspiration is within the paranormal field, and what do you hope to eventually maybe prove or show the world or want people to get out of it?
I'll start with Courtney.
Okay. I guess my intentions behind doing looking for the paranormal, I guess, is to kind of figure out where we go after we die. I think like that's a question that a lot of people will have on their mind, and I think my goal is to just answer that question, like, where does our spirit go? Like, is it real? And that's just sort of like, that's always been like my like reason behind doing it.
Okay. Renee, what do you think?
Kind of feel the same. I think if we can prove that it exists to other people and maybe take some fear away that people have, that would be good.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, I'm just going to echo both of them and say, you know, one of the reasons that the Catholic Church no longer forbids communication with the dead, and this is true. I actually talk about it in Family Spirits, and I have my sources in there for this. There was a bishop in Rome who said, we actually like the idea of this, I'm paraphrasing, because it gets people thinking about the afterlife. And we now live in a very cynical and materialistic age, and people are losing their spirituality. Sure. And believe it or not, I truly believe, I believe this with every fiber of my being, that what we are doing is a good thing, because we are helping bring back spirituality to people through the paranormal.
I agree. I definitely agree with you.
Thank
you know,
so
Bobby,
much.
One more question before I let you go. And again, this goes back to the magician. I watch a lot of them, especially on America's Got Talent, and I want to see how this ties into paranormal, if it does at all. Can you, or is it possible, I'm not talking about a psychic or a medium, is it possible through any kind of magical work to read another person's mind?
There are things that are very close. There is a method called Hellstromism, and basically it's muscle reading. So like you could grab somebody's hand and ask them to concentrate on something in a home, and they will unconsciously lead you to it. That's the closest we really know. The closest thing to real mind reading that we know of right now would be that. The second thing that I believe is something that both magicians and psychic mediums use, and that is pendulum dowsing. Because I was doing that as a magician way back. And when I found out that mediums were doing this to talk to spirits, I was kind of blown away because I'm really adept at it. And to me, that is true psychic ability. It might not be mind reading, quote unquote, but it's psychic ability. And, so it all ties together. But just, flat out reading somebody's mind, not yet, no, unless there's something I don't know about. But there are things that come pretty close.
Yeah, I asked that because is it possible to not as a psychic, but as a magician, to comprehend sometimes the mental vibration of what the spirit is trying to tell you during an investigation, like come to this room because through the mind in a way, because I believe, Bobby, that the spirit world is way ahead of us. So when we're trying to walk down the road, they're already down the road saying, come on.
Yeah.
And when they're doing that, they already know what we're going to do and what we want to do and the turns that we're going to take. And so, I believe that if they know you're a magician, like, have you ever said, Spirit, I'm going to show you a trick, right? And
No,
I want some communication with you.
I got to say, no, I've really never done that. But being a magician has been a detriment at times for me because people look at our evidence and think, well, you're a magician, you just faked it. And I'm like, that's not the point. You're missing it completely. I'm like, no, I don't fake anything. And being a magician, I can tell you that this is real. That's where I'm coming from. Right. So being a magician is both a plus and a minus, to be honest. But I will say though that it just gives me a unique insight, and it also really allows me to spot when I see something on one of the television shows or even something that somebody is posting on Facebook or something. I kind of like, dude, no, it's not real stuff. And that's also why I like to tell people, if you watch our web series, it's all real. It's just all real. I mean, and even controversial pieces of equipment that we've used, I got to say, look, I understand this piece of equipment might be controversial, but I have done the homework and I have talked to the developers of this and the people who invented it. So I have a background on it, and there's a reason why I'm trusting it.
And remember,
wow, this has been a fascinating thing.
Our girls started out.
You went by the where can everybody find your book?
The book.
You just said that already.
Well,
oh no, I'd like to say it again. You could get it on Amazon, which we were number 3 on Amazon in the adventure travel category when it was released. But the best place to get it right now would be FamilySpiritsBook.com. That's FamilySpiritsBook.com. Enter the promo code 2021 to get 21% off either the physical copy or the ebook. And the only other place I want people to go is our web series to watch some of the episodes, and that's ghosthunter.ws. And that's it. All right. Oh, wow. Did we lose them?
I think we lost them again. I wanted to reiterate that.
Go ahead, say it.
When we started this out, our kids were younger.
Yeah.
So they had seen it on TV, right? They were watching all of this happen on TV. And when we went out and did it, and we actually got the evidence that proved to them that it was real, when they were watching the shows, and they thought a lot of it was not real. So
absolutely. It validated what they were watching
correct.
on TV. I guess I'll say that the final thing I'll say before we hit exactly an hour, and then I guess we'll log off, is that there's no, if you run into a skeptic, there's nothing you're ever going to say that's going to convince them. Personal experience is the best teacher in this.
Okay. Thanks for letting us share our story.
Yes, thank you very much. Court?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I guess it's been an hour. I guess it's just time to log off. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Family spirits.